Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Special Parenting for Special Children. Today, we're going to be talking about the problem. What is the problem? Well, here at Maximind Learning, we've had thousands of parents come in with their children with their own version of the problem. But before we talk about what the problem is, let's talk about similarities and differences. Your child is different. You feel your child is different. You have known it for a long time, and perhaps even since this child was born, maybe even earlier. I remember my epiphany changing my very special child on the change table. And I said, this child is not like the older siblings. There's something different here. And that feeling doesn't go away. Somehow you just get that, but yet we realize that every child is different. Every child is special, but some children feel more different than others. And the question is why? Why is my child behaving this way? What can I do? Sometimes these behaviors aren't doing any benefit for the child or for the family or for their success or for their happiness. And you want to know what's underlying it. And sometimes standard methods won't tell you. It's not about what the doctor says or what the school says, or maybe it is, but somehow things don't change. So you're worried. You're worried about how school is going, how it's going with siblings, with family, with food, with senses, with the tags on the clothing, how it's going with organization, how it's going with communication, socialization. Why are things so difficult? And you don't know. And then you look to yourself. What is it that I should be doing that I'm not doing? Why is this not working? And you try strategies and solutions, and then you try begging and pleading and punishing and rewarding, and you try crying and screaming and scolding and ignoring, and nothing really works. Nothing really makes a lasting change. So you come to that inevitable conclusion eventually that it's not you, it's your child. Something is wrong with my child. My child is the problem. I want to propose to you today that that statement, my child is the problem, that in fact is the problem. Your child is not the problem. And deeper than that, well, why is your child not the problem? Because your child cannot change in and of him or herself. The only way this child will change is if the environment changes, if something around the child changes. And then changes may be triggered for the child, whatever those changes are. Who's in control of those changes? The parent. So it comes back to me, the parent. What am I going to do in order to change things? Now, I've already tried everything and it's failed. So that's why I came to the conclusion that my child is the problem. But if my child can't change anything and I've decided he's the problem, then I'm going to definitely be stuck, because then there's nothing I can do anymore. Now, if I say to myself the next logical statement, I am the problem because I can't figure out what to do, then I'm really stuck, because I'm not going to be able to look at myself in the mirror and say, I have failed. I'm going to eat a box of Pringles and have that third piece of chocolate cake and scroll social media for like 4 hours or play Fortnite or whatever your go-to thing is to do. We can't face our failure as a parent. It's the most important thing. And yet we keep coming up to it all the time. So if the child's not the problem and I can't accept that I'm the problem because I've done everything, so what is the problem? Well, let me start with flipping this thing completely around. My proposition to you is that your child is in fact perfect. What does that mean? Because your child is the way he is because that's the way you were given. That's the deck you were dealt, and that hand is right for you. So we got two basic possibilities over here. Either the child is a divine gift and God knows what he's doing, and he gave you what you should handle because your soul needed this child And that's your mission in life, is to try to work things through. And the child is perfect, which means you too are perfect because that child was gifted with you as a parent. So now you're both fine, or there is no God, there is no gift, in which case there's nothing to expect. So the child is perfect because random collections of molecules and atoms just generate random things, and here's your random thing to go with you, the random person. So you're two random people stuck in each other's life, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So there's nothing to fret about, because who could expect anything different? There's nothing to expect. Just because other people have different experiences, so what? So what? The world is random. So whether there is a God or there's no God, there's nothing really to worry about, that you're a failure or that child is wrong or it's damaged goods. None of those things really apply. The question is, what do we do now? And the deeper question is, how can I truly see my child as perfect? Because if I can see my child as not the problem, my child can be a gift, and I can appreciate the child. And that feeling of appreciation will help me recognize the strengths that exist, be compassionate, be curious, not be self-defensive and judgmental of either the child or myself, just engage. And through that engagement, you discover things that really, really help. Let me give you an example through a story. When my eldest was born, my wife had some problems. There were complications. And when the baby was born, the doctor teared up after the birth. And I said, Dr. Goldman, I noticed, I guess you were crying? What's up with that? Why were you crying? Was it such a high-risk pregnancy? He says, no, it wasn't that serious. So why were you crying? He says, don't you see? A baby was born. I said, Dr. Goldman, you've been at this for a while. How many babies have you delivered? He said, that's a great question. Let me think. I don't know, about 900. 900 babies, and you're still so moved. He said, but look, it's a miracle. And it is a miracle. Imagine if you could remember the moment of birth, after the birth, holding the baby, looking at the baby, going, wow, fingers and toes and breathing and eyes and hair, and you're just beyond yourself. It's a miracle. You've been given a gift. How did this even come about? And you just have this sense of wonder, appreciation, and gratitude. Imagine if you could preserve that for 900 days or 9,000 days, that every day with your child is a gift. That sense of appreciation creates happy chemicals in your brain, allows you to relax, allows you to observe and to discover what to do to help make things better, but along the way, not to judge your child, the situation, or yourself, because then a problem surely has been created. Let me then leave you with a simple exercise, which I can also frame in the context of a story. The story is about someone who consulted a very wise man about his anger problem, and he would take it out on his child. And sometimes he would even hit his child. And the very wise man told him, you know, would you do that to someone else's child or just to your child? He said, well, I never did that to someone else's child, but I did do it to my child. He said, the reason you don't do it to someone else's child is because you wouldn't dare. Why don't you look at your child as being someone else's child? That's a child of God. We're all made in the divine image. This is God's child. He's been gifted to you. You're a custodian, a guardian to raise, care for, serve this child's need, help them grow up and move on in life to the best of your ability. Good luck with that. And now, with this kind of attitude, the exercise for the week is generate a sense of gratitude. Picture your child as new in your life. Remember that moment, feel that as a gift, and look at the tiny little things that you appreciate. Discover the good things about the child, and also discover how that child looks at the world, how that child feels. Don't tie your feelings up with them. If you take a few minutes to reflect on that each day this week, you'll have a different week. You'll discover more about your child, and the behaviors you're concerned about may themselves objectively become less challenging. And that is an exercise for the week. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.